Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. So today we are going to be talking about the hi-hat, and you'll have to forgive the camera. For some reason, it's been going in and out of focus all morning. So this one's more of a kind of a listen video anyway. So the hi-hat, in my opinion, is kind of the basis of the drum set. It's what carries all the rhythm. Well, not all the rhythm, but you know what I mean. It's a lot of the source of the drive and the power and the finesse and the technicality in our music. And the same is true in sequence drums. I just felt more comfortable sitting here at the electric kit and actually playing some patterns to give you guys examples of what I'm talking about. So I like to think of the hi-hat as three unique voices, and we can get many more tones out of it than just three, but I like to think of the hi-hat in its very base form as closed, as open, and then as a bark, which is where you hit it open and then immediately close it. And between those three sounds, we can squeeze a lot of flexibility out of this one instrument. And even if you're sequencing on like a pocket operator or something where you only get really one hi-hat sound at a time, a lot of times those devices, you can get almost even more flexibility and more intricacies out of them, because when you switch the sound from the closed to the open hi-hat and back again, it cancels itself out. So you can get some really tight and really crisp barks in there. Even more so than when you're playing live, which is really cool. So I thought I would just show you guys some basic patterns at a few different tempos and things you can do to kind of spice up your hi-hat game. So let's just start with a very basic pattern. You know, that's about as basic as it gets. 8th notes on the hi-hat, 1 and 3 on the kick, and 2 and 4 on the snare. So the easiest way to spice this up is to give yourself a 16th note, 3 16th notes where the 8th notes would be. So I'm terrible at explaining it. Let me just show you. All of a sudden it has a lot more pep to it. You can go ahead and do all 16th notes. And then you get something akin to like the entrance of Tom Sawyer by Rush, but that's a whole different thing. And in my opinion, closing the pattern off with all hi-hat makes it sound completely different than... So that's fun, and that's a pretty easy switch you can make. But to take it one step further, you can open the hi-hat on the end of each of those sets of 16th notes. So... And we can actually go a further step than that. And if we think back to the video I made about asking and answering questions with our patterns, we can go 1 measure with the hi-hat closed on those the 16th notes there, and then 1 measure with them open. Just like that. And you can switch those up too. So you could go 1 off, 1 on within the same measure. Or you can switch that around, open and then off. Or you could go 2 off, 2 on. That's kind of a miniature version of the first one I played. Or you could do like 1 on, 2 off, 1 on. My personal favorite. Kind of gives some context to the middle of your pattern and helps differentiate there. So that's a very basic one. Let's talk about something that maybe a little slower, more kind of like a hip-hop feel kind of. So but what if we swing on the hi-hat? So it's a variation of, but we're going to go. You can hear I'm doing some variations with the bass drum, but that hi-hat kind of gives it that swagger, that pop, that, you know, just extra little bit of pizzazz is here. You know, the feeling of walking down the street. And you can see right there, I'm putting various rests and breaks in the middle, you know. as well as accenting different notes. Accents are also a huge part of the hi-hat, and those are going to be more dependent on you know, what your actual song and what your pattern is that you're playing. So you know, they're a lot more contextual than just kind of the broader concepts that I'm given, but that's a pretty common pattern, like pretty common. What if we start opening the hi-hat though in some of these notes or in patterns? So what if we open it right in the middle of it, but we immediately close it right after? It's going to put a bark right in the middle, and it's going to sound kind of like this. Just like that. And that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's one thing you can do, and you can kind of intersperse those barks as you see fit. And this is another thing about the hi-hat. Feel free to experiment. You know, with 3 voices, you're pretty limited in what you can do, but with limitation comes extreme remarkableness. Don't quote me on that. So you can kind of see you want to interplay on a pattern like this between the hi-hat, the barks, the snare drum, and the bass drum. You really want the hi-hat to be treated as separate drums. So each one, you know, makes a unique sound. So in my opinion, it kind of is a separate entity already than the bass and snare, like I mentioned in the beginning. So when you're swinging with it like this, you can put a hi-hat bark just about anywhere and it's going to sound good. And like I did right there on beat 1, you could even just have an extended one. That's going to take the place of 2 notes. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, I am kind of rushing through these. I could spend hours on, you know, each of these individual topics, but I know people prefer the concise video where I talk about, you know, just 2 or 3 different things, which is going to bring me to the last pattern here that we're going to talk about. I hear some interference. It's from my phone in my pocket. There we go. Sorry about that. Don't know if that came through or not. But and that is double triggering. The last thing we're going to talk about is double triggering. So on like a pocket operator, that's where you're in write mode. You hold your step and you press BPM and it doubles it. So let's say we're doing a pattern that's like, it would do something like this. We'll put it on beat 3. And those can really be used to create a false sense of speeding up. Of course, the tempo is going to stay the same, but you'll hear people describing songs and they're like, oh, it gets faster right there. It doesn't get faster. There's just more notes being played. The tempo is still the same. So, I mean, you could do, you know, like something like this. Ending with a bark right there with a bass drum. That's another quick tip about barks. Pairing it with a bass drum makes a really, really cool sound. Just awesome. So yeah, that's something you can do, is use your double trigger to invoke a sense of a false sense of speeding up, or it can really help to push an idea through, whether it be lyrically or melodically. If something is, you know, happening in the music, let's say you have maybe an arpeggio that kicks in. Just like that, you know, you really have to play around with it, and a lot of it is trial and error. You're going to know what sounds good because you're going to know what you want, because you're the one making the music. But yeah, just some real basic ideas. I definitely want to get a little deeper into the hi-hat in the future, but for this video, I just wanted to share you guys kind of my overall mindset when I approach the hi-hat, and then some real life playing examples, and you know, how you can sequence those. And feel free to, of course, play with the variations that I showed you today. Discover your own thing. It's yours to do whatever you want with. So yeah, hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. If it was, go ahead and hit the like button. If not, you can hit the dislike button. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings. Just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.